Hey, hello. Welcome to Jason the Old Millennial, and welcome to a special live stream with my very special guest, Mike. Uh,
Hey Jason, thanks for having me.
you might know him from Did You See That, his YouTube channel, which has about 1.75 thousand subscribers. So, very cool. Uh,
Thank you. Crazy,
yeah.
crazy. I still wake up every day thinking I'm gonna put my YouTube studio and it's gonna be one sub, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm always afraid like I'll say something controversial on accident and then I'll lose everybody. I'll be like, oh no, what did I say? Like, darn it. um,
So good.
anyways, Mike has come on. I've got this exclusive interview with Mike about his book that he wrote, new book, his first book, in fact, uh, called Suicide Rumor, which I got on my ebook, my Kindle here. If you can see it.
Nice. So
uh,
it is available on Kindle or Kindle app on smartphones, by the way, because a lot of people I don't think realize that. So if you've got iPhone or Samsung, just go on your app store, type in Kindle, you can get it from there. You read on your phone.
very easy to download and doesn't cost hardly anything. I think it was like $1 or something like that. I can't remember. It was
Mm.
uh, not a bad price. Anyways, yeah. So I got Mike on because I wanted to talk to him about the book that he wrote and kind of just about his process of how he came about writing the book. Which I'm kind of fascinated because you came up with an idea, you wrote it, you self-published, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing through like was it through like Amazon or?
Yeah, so if anyone who's kind of like independent writers, kind of like myself, of course, you kind of just doing it as a hobby as well. Yeah, you can sign up to Amazon. It's a free account to sign up to as well. It's just called kdp.amazon.com. And yeah, you can upload like your manuscripts and create covers through there as well for it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, from what I've heard, Amazon's the best place to self-publish. From what I've
Mm.
watched a lot of other people that have written books, of course, and kind of heard their ideas or heard their thoughts on writing. And um, from what I've heard, Amazon's like the best or the easiest place or best place to do it at.
Yeah, yeah, it was a pretty easy process to be honest to once you
Like,
upload it because I had on pre-order for a little while, which I'm sure we'll get into and stuff. But until that pre-order date, you can change the manuscript. So if you keep, proofread it every day, just to kind of, maybe perfect little things here and there, you can just upload the document every day and it'll just update with the
really?
newest version until a set date, and then it's like, right, that's the final version of the book. So pretty easy.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I know there's other places probably you can do it, but Amazon, of course, Amazon's huge. Of course, company, which is pretty cool that you can do that. I don't know when they start doing that, but that's probably been pretty eye opening for people that have been wanting to write books. Because I've talked to people that have self
Right.
published, and it feels like it's almost impossible to get someone to publish your book. It's
Mm.
like it's very hard to. I don't know how people do it. You go to a big publishing company and they, you know, and I don't know how someone gets their books published that way. But I've heard that's pretty hard to get your name in there and all that. So this definitely helps someone who wants to write a book be able to go to Amazon and self-publish. Of course, that probably brings about a pretty big influx of independent writers out there. So there's a lot to choose
Right.
from. In other words, so if you're writing
Right.
a book, you're in pretty big competition, probably. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends if Amazon pushes your work out there. Bit like a YouTube algorithm. If it pushes it out there, you might get a bit of a break. I think it depends on maybe your scope of friends and family and word of mouth, or if you decide to pay for marketing outside of Amazon to push your book, like Facebook ads and Instagram and stuff like that,
Yeah,
TikTok, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think it's quite hard to be honest, but I just love, I just like writing. It's a hobby for me. So if it takes off, I'd be over the moon. I'd love to do it full time. But I'm not going to pay crazy amounts in marketing. Not right now, anyway.
yeah. Right until maybe you build up something, perhaps. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, or maybe if I say like say in the future, because I do definitely have plans to write more, but I'm sure we'll get into it, so I don't want to jump too far ahead. But like maybe something if I wrote something in the future and it was doing really, really well without me doing anything, maybe then I'll be like, right, maybe I should push this a little bit more to get that out there. But as this is my first one, kind of just wanted to test the waters, see what
Right.
reception would be like and feedback.
Yeah.
Not that I don't believe in the book, but I just wanted to kind of get that feedback really. So again, I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah. Yeah. First, do you want to just kind of describe your book, I guess, and what it's about?
Yeah, sure. So, book's called Suicide Rumour. It's available on Amazon worldwide right now, which is awesome. That like someone in like China could be reading my book
I
right
know,
now as we're
across the
speaking.
world. Yeah.
Right, it's crazy. I love that thought itself. It's just incredible, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about a character called Jennifer Orange. She is kind of like a teenage girl going into kind of like early adult years as well, and she's kind of like an everyday life, like kind of goes to job. She has a job. She goes home. She kind of just like has a family time, kind of rinse repeat. Like ourselves, we have like an everyday life. And then one day, a rumor starts to circulate around her. Of course, like anything in life, something can happen in our lives, and our mental health just goes from here and just plummets pretty quick, depending on what the situation is. And yeah, as soon as this rumor starts circulating, the question is, will it change the Orange household forever? Without spoilers.
Yeah. That's a little too much.
Mm,
I would say she's trying to find out where it originated, kind of somewhat the plot of the book, I guess. I
right,
would, because she doesn't know who started the rumor, I guess.
right,
um, right,
right.
part of it. Um, yeah, I thought a lot about this. Definitely, like I read a lot of, like me, I read a lot of biographies, autobiographies, books on history, and then I read a lot of fantasy. It's kind of uh,
Okay.
so this book isn't exactly the kind of book I normally read. So I think a lot about like how to categorize this book. I don't know if how you'd categorize it. Like I look at it and I think, of course, it's a fictional book. It's not a true
Right,
story. It's
right.
a fictional character and all that and all this stuff.
Mm.
Um, and to me, I don't know if this is the best way to describe it. I guess to me, but I find it to be a drama book. But I don't know if that's a category really, but it's kind of a drama. I almost would say like family drama, teen drama. I don't know what you would say.
Yeah, maybe like drama, like young adult. Maybe I would
Okay.
I would say like yeah, drama, fiction, young adult. I think you hit the nail on the head. Really. I mean, not to say that people who's not a young adult can't take thing away from it, because I try to make it so it's a relatable message to anyone. But I would say it's definitely more kind of maybe more towards teen adult. Yeah, young adult.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't think about this till you said that. Was there an age that you thought about, like how young do you think could read this book? Or
I think it depends, because I think with this book, like the plot synopsis itself, it's based on Jennifer Orange, who is in, very kind of late towards teenage years, going into adult years, very young, like that age
yeah,
range in the book. She doesn't get much older than that anyway. So I think like, maybe say like older audiences might be like, maybe something like that happened in kind of my teenage years. Maybe I can relate to something like that extent, or pull that part from the book into my like actual life kind of happened. Or maybe it's just like teenagers actually growing up and that kind of pressures of rumors, bullying in school, which a lot
yeah,
of us face, myself
big deal,
included.
isn't it?
Yeah, so I didn't really have like an age in mind, to be honest, but I think it's
I
more when
mean,
I finished the book, I was like, maybe this audience might be more for that audience in a way. But I try and make my books open to everyone if I can.
there's definitely some, I would say some dark moments. So that's, you know, something to
Yeah,
consider, when reading it, I would say as a
mm.
kid, but I don't know.
But I would maybe say like maybe probably like 12 upwards.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would kind of
yeah,
say I think like
yeah,
under that
yeah.
might be a little bit too young with some of the messages that's in there,
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's probably about right.
Mm,
Let's see.
yeah.
I got Ryan here. I think he has something.
Oh, hey, Ryan.
First question: with the characters created in the book, do you have a particular actress you would think of to play part of Jennifer? Yeah, that's a.
Oh, okay. That's a
Do you
that's a
do
great
you think
question.
that way when you're writing characters? Do you think of like
Hmm.
what they look like and what actress would play that?
Yeah, I have a little. So a bit of the process, which I'm sure we'll go into a bit more. But down to kind of Ryan's question there, yeah. So I think when I'm writing a character, I don't think like, oh, this celebrity could play this character if it writes like comes into a movie or a TV show one day. I don't really think that way because I mean, just speaking for myself here, I think if I was to do that, I would probably get myself in a web of just a never ending web
Uh-huh.
because when I wrote Suicide Room, I didn't think right this is going to be a movie one day. It's going to
Right.
be
Yeah.
a TV series. Don't get me wrong, Hollywood, if you're watching,
You would take the
get
money.
in touch. But I never think that I don't
Yeah.
think of myself like that of an ego to be like this is going to be huge. This is going to be a movie. I don't have that thought. In terms of writing the character, I kind of like writing the character's name first. And maybe people might think, oh, I want to kind of get like an embodied picture of this person, then a name come next. But I like writing the name first and
Mhm.
building that character around that name. Like, what would a Jennifer look like? What would a like? Do you have like a hot Jennifer, like a Jennifer Lawrence, for example, like who's a really pretty woman? Do you have a
Yeah.
Jennifer who's maybe not like so like kind of high regarded? Like, I don't think of that really. But to answer Ryan's question, sorry to kind of going along winded there. I would say if I don't really have one in mind, but if just from top of my head, maybe Thomason Mackenzie, I think her name is. Is it her from Last Night in Soho?
I don't know that.
You know the girl from Jojo Rabbit?
Yes.
Her.
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it's
The
Thomason Mackenzie, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
German girl. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
hiding.
think she could probably do a pretty good job.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I liked her in that movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just think like with the Jennifer character is like she's a bit of like a nerdy personality. And I think,
yeah.
like some of these actresses don't really have that, or at least not on screen presence. Maybe personal lives there might be. I feel like Thomas and Mackenzie, anyway, whenever I've seen her, she has that kind of
Okay.
like bubbly personality. Like she could be maybe that kind of nerdy type from what I've kind of gathered. So I would probably go her.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah, she's definitely very into video games. The character, which I know
Right.
you're into video games somewhat as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
love video games.
so I was reading it, going, "Oh, this must be Mike's video game." uh, you know, coming into the character or something. I don't know.
Mm,
Which makes sense. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like she's into video games and she works like
right.
at a video game store, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah, works for tech gaming. Yeah, I think it's one of those where when I wrote the characters, I wanted to include a bit of myself in kind of each one to an extent. Of course, love video games. So I thought, right, well, what kind of job can she have?
Right.
Because obviously I don't know how a woman's body works. I don't know what kind of
Yeah.
makeups they like,
Yeah. Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, at least if I kind of write like video games, I know a little bit
You know
about
about
that
that.
subject and make
Yeah.
it more just towards her, so kind of that's where I come from, yeah.
Yeah.
Good observation, though.
We got Josh says hi.
Hey, Josh, how you doing?
Sophie says, hey, congratulations on the book, Mike.
Hey, Sophie, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
And Gareth saying hi.
Hey, Gareth, how you doing?
Which you just did a watch along on Back to the Future.
That was a lot of fun.
I'm thinking if I'm doing a watch along, like Mike's name is like first on my list. Like I have to watch. I have to ask Mike first before I ask anybody else.
I'm always down.
All right. Well, my first question is
Sure.
just kind of general. When did you get this idea for this book?
A while ago, actually. It was kind of so I had Suicide Rumour out a while ago, like actually self-published a while ago.
Oh,
and I retracted it because there was parts in it I needed to kind of rebuff and redo. So I pulled that. I pulled that anyway. So that's long story short. So it was in the works for a while, and then kind of like last year, I picked it up on my laptop and I thought, well, hold on. I was working on like a new book at the time, which I am in the work of at the moment,
okay, cool.
and really excited for that. I'll tell you about that maybe more towards the end.
Okay.
But with this one, went back on my laptop and I was like, well, hold on. I've got like nearly like a full book ready to go. It just needs kind of sprucing up with the chapters and adding little bits here and there to just pad the story out a little bit more and give it a bit more character development with, like, so for one example, character development with the dad's character. It
Mhm.
didn't really have too much in the original one, but in this one he has a bit more, so you get more updates about what's going on when he takes this
Okay.
job, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, the process was probably a while. Yeah.
It's been in the works for a while.
Yeah, it's been for a little while, I would say. Yeah, it's been hard work for
Yeah.
sure. There's parts where I read it and I get goosebumps personally, and I'm a bit like, like probably for me the ending or the kind of rumor reveal. That's all
Uh,
I'll say about
yeah.
spoilers. Those two moments for me, I read it and I'm
Oh,
like even I take a step back sometimes and I read it and I'm like, wow.
those are the two biggest moments in the book. Yeah, that's what I would
Right.
say. Do that really stand out. Um, yeah, when I was reading it. Um, so is this like, do you have the idea in your head for a while before you put anything down on paper, or does the idea just kind of come up like, I don't know, does it just come like a light bulb? Like, oh man, I got this great idea. I need to start writing, or
Yeah, so bit of both, to be honest. So I like thinking. So you know yourself, right? We've both got YouTube channels. We both talk about movies
Mhm.
quite a lot, or music for yourself, and
Yeah.
other projects. And I think it's one of those where, for me, I see so many movies, the ones I've seen anyway. I'm not counting the ones I haven't seen, but that's a different subject. But like the movies that I have seen in my life, I think of these ideas and I'm thinking, hold on, like why has someone not done an idea on this,
Uh-huh.
or
Yeah.
this story? Why have they not gone this interpretation with like this movie before or idea? So I'm kind of like, hold on, I would like to make something like that, but
Okay.
maybe like a bit of a spin on it. Or with Suicide Rumor, I personally don't really know a story that's like this. I like sure there's movies where it's like focus on teens, it's focusing on bullying and stuff. That's been done before. But not so much where it's focused on this main girl who works at a video game store, who has a rumor spread about her of a suicide. I've not seen that kind of movie before. If you or anyone who's watching has, feel free to comment. I'll check it out.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I like to try and make an original idea, but
Yeah.
also when I'm writing a book, I'm like, right, I want to I want a subject here. I want a subject or subjects for that matter that's relevant, but also can tell.
Yeah.
I'll try and make a really compelling story to tell that subject, and not just be like, oh, like the theme of suicide, like just in your face every chapter. Like I don't want that. But like throughout the book, it's like at the end of it, it's like, right, okay, so maybe this and this here like leads to this, leads
Mhm.
to that, or whatever happens without spoilers again. So yeah, that's kind of my idea process around it, really.
Okay. Like, okay, it kind of goes into, I was going to ask you, what inspired you to write a book about suicide, basically? I mean, it's
Sure.
obviously it's called Suicide Rumor, so that's part of the book. Without
Hmm.
spoiling anything, that's, you
Right.
know, that's an issue that's dealt with in the book, I guess I'll say.
Sure.
So what
Sure.
inspired you to write about that?
Yeah. So most of the time, I like to try and consider myself kind of like a positive, upbeat kind of person. I'll always be there to like talk to anyone or try cheer people up or just even just be an ear for someone just listen to someone.
Yeah.
But there's moments where maybe I'm not so open about it, but I do get down, I do get depressed. Sometimes I just get fed up, and There's definitely times during my life where I've had like maybe like a rut of jobs, like where I just haven't feel like I fit in somewhere, so I moved, and then something maybe goes wrong, and then kind of had like another one, for example, which is not great, but it just takes a toll on like your mental health, or if you fall out with friends with someone, or like I'm quite an independent person personally, and I like doing things on my own. But then sometimes I'm like, oh, it'd be nice if I had maybe more close friends, or like say like you're a close friend, like Anthony, Rashad, and I'm just like, oh man, you guys are all the way in America. Like I can't really go to America and go hang out with you for the
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
So like I have those down moments in my life. So I thought when I write my books, any of that kind of like negative energy that I have, I want to channel it into something. And I don't want to go on YouTube and be like, "Oh, hey guys, I'm feeling down today. Let's talk about it." I'm just like,
yeah.
nah, like YouTube doesn't really need to see that.
Right.
Or if it's about YouTube, I'll make a video on that itself and talk about it openly. But just think if I'm having like a down day, I'm like, oh, let me just get my laptop out, let me just write a couple of lines in here, and let me just put my thoughts into this book, because like the subject matter for Suicide Rumour obviously isn't a light one to take. So I feel like when I'm having them down moments, that's maybe best to put my thoughts into something like that. Like the theme of the story and writing it, and these character development, or the newer book I'm writing as well. So yeah, it all be kind of based on like times when I'm down.
Okay. Kind of inspired you to write about this.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I know we've talked before, and you mentioned to me kind of obviously bullying is a big part of the book as well. And
yeah.
you mentioned, I think like a lot of us, there's probably been some bullying in your life as well. Does that
Oh,
come out
definitely.
of the book because of that?
Yeah, so like with my books, whichever one I write, whether it's Suicide Rumor, whether it's my next one, whether it's my fifth book, whatever, because I've got many plans in this crazy brain.
Great, great.
Yeah, like I like to always try to bring some of my past experience, or just something in my life even now into it. So like I'm in there, but I'm not like a character based on me specifically is in there, or
Right.
looks like me, or does my personalities.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I went through school. I was bullied in kind of like senior school and stuff. I was a nerd. I wasn't really, like a confident, like outgoing guy to an extent like that I am now. I'm like, I'm outgoing. I'm more social than I was, for
Mhm.
example. But stuff I think like bullying again is just such a common thing that still happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Even in 2023, when everything's more open to everything now, it's still happening. It's still bad. So yeah, it's definitely just a relatable message, just something that happened to me. So I
Yeah.
want to kind of put that in there as well.
Yeah.
Not
Very.
to not to like that extent it happens in the book, but it happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Mm.
Um, Lewis Smith. Hey, thanks for watching.
Hey Lewis, how you doing?
Garrett from Sound Studio says Mike wrote a book. Cool. Yeah, he wrote a
Yeah,
book. Suicide Rumor, it's called.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks, Gareth.
check it out if you have a Kindle or on your smartphone. He said you can uh,
Yeah.
buy it. It's a doesn't cost much, and it's an easy read. Here, I'm trying to get my Kindle out again. What it looks like. You got Mike's name down there. Um, yeah, definitely check it out. I recommend it to anybody,
So
especially if you know Mike and you want to support him. I mean, man, there's not a better guy to support than Mike, in my
no,
opinion.
thank you. Thanks,
Uh,
man.
you're welcome. Um,
It's only a pound as well, or a dollar equivalent, or whatever currency you're in. I try to make it to like £1 equivalent in currency as well. So it doesn't cost much, less than a
yeah,
coffee a day. There you go.
yeah, yeah. I think it's according to my Kindle, it's about 77 pages, so it's
Mm,
not like a big, 500 page book or something. That'll take you a while to get through.
right,
Uh,
right.
so yeah, it's very nice. Um, so this question, it's
Sure.
kind of about the process of the whole, just how you came up with, you come with an idea, now you got to figure out how to write it and
Mm,
publish it and all this. So the question is just kind of general, like, how long was this process from coming up with an idea to writing it to publishing it? How long does that take? Or
So, for me personally, with this, my experience with this book anyway, I would say if I took everything into account, maybe 6 to 9 months, I
okay,
would say. And that's purely because when I wrote the book, and like, so I'll start from the beginning, kind of give a bit quick breakdown.
yeah,
So
yeah,
starting from the beginning, I was like, right, what do I want the theme of this book to be? Do I want it to be about one person? Do I want it to affect a couple of people? Do I want it to affect hundreds of people? Like, what do I want to achieve from this? So I had that idea. I want a family. I want to focus mainly on them. Maybe a couple of outside characters, which you see,
yeah,
but mainly focus on a family. That's the overall story of the book. And then I thought, right, okay, so then with these characters, I'm like, right, got to assign a job to them. So what do they do in their lives? What is special about these characters? Are like, are they a minor character where they're just in this one scene? Are they a recurring character throughout the entire book?
hmm
Like, I need to establish those durations. And then once I've done that and the overall plot that I'm going for, I'm like, right. So with the ending of the book, okay, how am I going to take characters from page 1 to 77? How am I going to get them to that journey? And like, what's that going to look like for their journeys? Because in a lot of movies that we watch on a day-to-day basis, like the twists you always see coming, you always see sometimes like the ending coming, unless you remember those movies the most that have the shock kind of twists in them, right?
yeah.
Or sometimes just a really happy ending, depending on what the movie is, of course, or a sad one, again, depending on what the movie is. But yeah, like along the way, I was like, right, I want to make some twists here that people maybe not see coming. Because I'm like, if I read a book, I want to see a twist that I wouldn't expect, and I'd be like, oh man, like, you know,
Because
it's like,
you have two major twists, I think, in this book, and so
yeah, I would say
so,
so.
so you're saying that was a big part of the whole thing, was you wanted to
Right,
write around these
right,
twists, probably.
right. And I'm trying to be careful what I say, because for anyone who does check this out, I don't want to give spoilers or be like, I've seen it
Yeah,
coming because
yeah,
Mike said something now.
yeah.
But I would say there's two twists. Yeah, I would say that there was two parts that I
Is
think,
that okay? I said that.
yeah. I mean, I think it's not really too much of a spoiler, because I
I
will
don't
say
think
that
that's
the
a
twist.
spoiler. I'm just saying I was
No, but
surprised twice.
there's two twists. There's two twists, and those twists. Like when I was planning them, I was like, "What's going to be like a gut punch?" Like what's going to be something
Yeah,
you're not going to see coming.
yeah.
And as I've said before, like even when I've read it back, those ones, like to me, and I've wrote it, I'm like, "Oh man,
And
like
I wrote it.
like wow, okay, like I need to take a step back for a second." I'm like, okay, compose myself. Next chapter or next part.
Yeah.
Um,
You're like, this guy's
but
pretty good at writing. Oh, it's me.
Oh, thank you. But no, 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 appreciate it though. So yeah, so going through the process, I had that, and then I'm like, right, okay, so, and then yeah, I think once I've got all that established, like the kind of groundwork, and then once I've wrote it all, I'm like, right, let's go through it again. Does it make sense? Is this character got enough development, or by the end of it, is whoever reads this book going to have a million questions about this person, and they're going to be like, well, this book doesn't go into enough detail about this person, and yeah, and yeah, I would definitely say with my book, I try to give character development to everyone. At least you kind of know a bit about them, a bit of background, and
Yeah.
as it goes on, you learn a bit more about them. And yeah, maybe there's odd like gaps here or there you could maybe fill in and pad out a little bit more. But I feel like with some characters that wasn't needed. So there's one part in this book where the dad goes away because he gets a kind of promotion job. Now we don't need to follow him every day and see what he's up to in his job. Like
No,
that's
right. Don't
not
really. Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
You get the fundamentals of him, and you get a little bit backstory about Jennifer's brother Max growing up and having the baby and stuff. You get that kind of backstory, and you learn about the dad more that way, going through the pregnancy and seeing the baby for the first time.
hmm
So, but like you don't know about him, or like the mom's not in every scene. So I'm just like, well, you don't need to know about the mom figure every time. Like just some things are just not needed. So I'd rather like have that story more for Jennifer or for Max or the friends or side characters that's in that plays a pivotal role to all this kind of get to the plot, basically, and to get to the end. So that's kind of the process, really.
Okay. Let's see. Lewis says, Micah, have you thought about carrying on your live? Have you thought about carrying on your live streams? I'm sure everyone will be gutted like me if you stop doing them. No, he still does them.
Well, thank you, Lewis, for the kind words. Really, really appreciate that.
You agree? You bring people together. Your personality shines. I agree. That's.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, for anyone who hasn't seen, did Z Talks last night? Fantastic time. It's an interesting one.
I'll say, anytime you get Rashad G, one of the people on the live stream, anytime you get him on a live stream, like whatever the subject matter is, it's out the window and it's just been going to a different direction than you think it was going to go, and you're just on a ride. Like, I don't know where this conversation's going.
Right. But yeah, to answer Lewis' question very quickly. So yeah, Lewis, just in relation with my own channel, yeah, live streams are still going to continue. Z Talk's still going to be weekly up until about episode 50-ish.
Yeah, then you take a break.
Yeah, I'm going to do like a big blowout celebration for like 50 or like 55. I'm not sure. And then I'll still be doing live streams like Hangout and Chills. I'm going to be doing like a new live stream series in the work. So Z Talks will go away for a little bit, but I'm still going to be live streaming kind of weekly, fortnightly and stuff. So
yeah,
there'll be loads there, loads, but appreciate the kind words.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about this book is that your main character is a female, and you are not. And
right.
I don't know how you write about females. So, like, what made you decide to make your main character a teenage female?
Right. So I thought it would be a challenge, right? Because I thought I was once a teenage boy. I was once going through that stage in life, growing up, and puberty and stuff hits. And I thought, well, I could write about that. I can write about a teenage boy growing up, but I'm just like, will that be too much of just throwing me into that character in a way?
Yeah.
Or will I not be? So I thought, well, hold on. If I write about a teenage girl, I'm out of my depth completely here. I'm writing about the different gender that I don't really know, like, what they go through growing up and their body changes, etc. I don't really need to know that, but
I don't want to know what goes on. It's crazy.
Right. But I don't know about that. So I thought, well, hold on. Well, why don't I try challenge myself and see how it works? So I don't go into the in-depths and specifics of a teenage girl. I don't think, again, that's needed for this story. But there's some elements there where she's kind of like tomboyish to an extent. She loves video games and stuff.
Yeah.
But she still does like girly things like makeup and kind of going shopping and stuff like that. She likes that kind of thing as well. So when writing a female character, I kind of just went through like kind of Google really for inspiration. Being like around the time when she's talking about makeup. Okay, so which kind of female celebrities were big at the time, endorsed by say MAC makeup, and I was like, oh right, there we go, boom, that's going in the book.
Okay.
So yeah, kind of like stuff like that. Kind of took inspiration and kind of Googled really. So definitely owe a lot to Google. And shout out also to Dave from Interpreting Stars, by the way. I wanted to give a shout out at the beginning.
Okay.
He was the one who proofread the book as well. So without him, this could have not been possible. So thank you to Dave if you're watching.
Yeah. Lewis says, happy days, mate.
Awesome. Not going anywhere, Lewis.
Do you know Lewis?
No, I don't think I do. But he seems like a legend.
I'm guessing, I want to say he might be from England, but because
I think so.
We don't say happy days. That's not an American thing. Or mate. We don't say mate in America. So I'm like, this guy must be English or something. But cool. Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate the commenting. Hope you're doing well. So I know a lot of times when I hear people talk about writing, usually you write like a first draft, maybe just to get the ideas down. And it's definitely not a finished product, that first draft. And like my only experience I have is writing like college papers. I feel like when I was in college, I remember. So I don't know what it's like to write a book. I can only say I know what it's like to write a college paper, and I know there's a obviously like a certain process that you have to that they teach you to follow, you know, and how to write a good paper, you know. And I don't know if that's
Sure.
similar to writing a book. I'm just, you know, speculating there. But I mean, many times you write like a first draft, and it's your first draft's not gonna be that good. It's just kind of get the ideas down,
Right.
and then you go through it and you go, oh, okay, I gotta change this. Anyway, so was that for you? Did you how many drafts did you have to go through to kind of get your finished product?
I'm gonna say about 3 or 4.
Okay.
I would say because I think kind of like what we were saying before. So for me, when I do my writing, I do it all on Microsoft Word.
Okay.
So whenever I feel like, adding to it, I'll add to it. I'll always try. So kind of a philosophy I try to have when I'm like really in the zone writing the book or just going to start getting ideas, is writing a line a day. And at least that way you're doing 1 line a day, still getting some kind of progress.
Okay.
And it's, it takes like 2 minutes to maybe write 1 line. If you don't like it, delete it the next day and write a line again. So yeah, there was days where, I finished the first draft, for example, and I was like, yeah, like the fundamental stories here, and like a lot of the character decisions, a lot of the character growths there. There might be, like, as I mentioned, a bit more backstory about the dad. I was like, right, okay, maybe I need to throw in a bit more about him in this chapter and this one and this one, to at least give the audience care. Be like, right, well, what's he still up to? Is he all right? Is he just, we're never going to see him again? So at least the audience is updated, because a pivotal part is he's going to come back for Christmas Eve. So from the time of September to Christmas Eve, you're like, well, what happened to this guy? Like, is he okay? Is he not okay? Is his job sucks? Like, is he doing well? Like you need to let the audience in.
You do like a face video with the dad at one point, I believe, or what do you call it? Like a FaceTime or something, I think.
Right. Yeah. Or you'll see it in like a line or two, and the man will be like, I've just spoke to him today. He's doing well.
Okay. Yeah.
So you get those kind of like little subtle hints that he's all right. So yeah, it was like kind of like that. Then I was like, right, okay. So the character names, am I keeping the character names? Or actually, do I think they should change? And of course, a big part of Patreon was like, look, Patreons can give the characters a name, so that the character names changed for a lot of the characters, which I think kind of suits the characters as well. And like it's good just to have that input from people who don't know anything really about the story, to be like, all right, call them this, call them that, and I just think that's something just really cool and unique. And then of course the proofreading. Once the proofreading's done, you have to go back over the proofreading to make sure it's okay.
Right.
So and then of course the front cover. So once you've done the drafts, you then got to focus on the front cover, and then the Amazon process. So I'd say about 3 or 4 drafts will answer your question.
Okay. I've watched some videos of some people talking about self-publishing and writing a book and advice, and stuff like that. And what I heard someone say is to do at least 3 drafts. It sounds like you need at least, which sounds like what you did. So they felt like 3 drafts, and like they were saying, like I was reading or watching videos on YouTube about like so you write this whole thing, and then you send it to like 3 different editors, and you have to give them. This is what they're suggesting. Like I guess you can find editors or something online or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You pay them like $200-$300 to read your thing and edit it. And I don't quite understand all of it, but they said there's like 3 different kind of editors, which I'm like, oh, okay. And that help you. And they said like, yeah, so you have to get to all these editors, and they look at it and they get it back to you. You look it over, and then you give some guy to do the cover art, for $200-$300. And I'm like, oh man, like it's a lot. I mean, I don't know if you've come across any of that, but that's why I've been reading.
So well, interesting point. Yeah, you actually bring that up. Like people do that. Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. Before doing my book, and even now, I've never watched a YouTube video to be like, here's advice to take to do this. I've just done it on my own accord.
Okay.
You kind of learn from mistakes as well that way. I think it's tough, because I think it depends firstly on how long your book is. The more pages your book is, the more it's going to cost to edit.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
say, for example, there's a website called Fiverr, which is Fiverr. I think it's 3 hours or 2 hours. I can't remember. And that's like a freelance site, so you can search for anything, and like someone would do it for you. You know. So like my YouTube intro was done from that website. Was someone created that? I didn't do that myself. Someone created it.
Okay.
But for example, like a book, someone may be like, "Oh yeah, I'll proofread 500 words," and to be fair, 500 words isn't a lot of words once you've done the spaces, once you've done everything. It's not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it might be like, "Oh yeah, that's like $40 to proofread 500 words,"
Okay. Okay.
and I'm just like, the book's on sale for £1.
Yeah.
And like, it's not like as if it's £40 a book. I'm like, maybe then, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, I think it depends which route you go down. I think it depends how long your book is. It depends, I think, if maybe they've got a publishing deal, and maybe as a first book, the publisher might say, well, actually, we want you to proofread this book. We want you to get an editor. We want you to hire one, do everything, and give us just the final design so we can just submit it in, bookshops like Barnes and Nobles, obviously for you guys in America, Waterstones here in the UK. I'm not sure how that fully works, but maybe something like that. But again, like this book, like I haven't got the marketing resources to be like, right, get that into a Waterstones or Barnes and Noble tomorrow. I haven't got those resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, like Dave from Interpreting the Stars did a fantastic job on proofreading the book.
Okay.
He knocked it out the park. Like, there was a few errors in there. He knocked them out. He suggested like maybe a different line, different sentence, just remove this line completely, tighten it up a little bit. And Dave actually did that for me. Which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
But I think with the research, right, it's good to do research, and I'm not going to knock anyone for to do that. Just personal advice from me though is just go for it. And if you have one draft, you have one draft, and that's your book. If you have 3 drafts or 100 drafts, then that's up to you. Like no one's here to tell you, right, after your first draft, sorry, you have to go through another 2 times before you submit. It's just not a criteria. On Amazon, you can upload if you wanted to, and it's completely riddled with errors, and none of the sentences make sense. You can still upload that if you want to.
Okay.
Obviously, it's not going to be a great product, I guess, to an extent, but
I guess they're saying you want the best product possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on how well your spelling is, how well your grammar is, how well maybe your English is, like an English class, and you learn to write these reports and papers and stuff, and you have that experience. Maybe you can do the proofreading yourself.
I mean, how did you learn how to write? You're just like, I like writing and I write a lot, and or did you take any kind of class? I don't know what.
No, so no classes at all. No, so I'm quite a creative person. That's why I started YouTube, for example. Give it a go. If it doesn't work, delete the video. For example, like this with writing, I've always had like a creative idea, and again, I come across ideas or stories, and I'm just like, why have they never done this or that? And I'm just like, well, why didn't I do that? Like, I've got no excuse not to do that. Open up a Word document, start typing, see how it flows. If it doesn't flow, just delete. No one's going to see it. That's my process. Just go for it.
Okay, cool. Talking about something about Mike's coming up with names for characters. He did have people come up with names, like, and I did come up with a name for the book. Character for the book came from me. In fact, my name is at the beginning of the during the acknowledgments, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I saw my name there, like, all right, like I suggested a name or something. And so that's cool. But yeah, Mike was like because I'm a Patreon, one of Mike's Patreons, whatever, and he's like, come up with a name. And so I was like, well, what better name than my wife's name, Stephanie? And I was like, Stephanie. And then Mike's like, well, the character is kind of a bully, so you might think of a different name. So, okay, which I'm glad you said that because I actually kind of it does make a difference. Because so then I was like, all right, I'm gonna give him an ex-girlfriend's name just to spite the ex-girlfriend. You know, I thought this is a good chance to get back at an ex-girlfriend. so I
Right.
so I gave my ex-girlfriend's name to the book. And so I'm reading the book and here comes my ex-girlfriend's name. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Now I feel kind of bad. Like I was like, man, I'm really terrible to my ex-girlfriend. So I'm like, wow, I give him your name and without saying who it is, but now I'm like, oh man, I was kind of harsh giving that name. But it still kind of makes me laugh when I see it and I go, oh man, that's the name I gave. And she's a terrible character. So I'm like, oh wow. Like I mean, my ex-girlfriend will never read it, so I don't think she'll ever. unless, she's watching this, unless she's watching this right now, I don't know. But
well, if she does, it's in there.
if she is, I apologize. But
right. It's a fictional story anyway.
It's a fictional story.
But no, I appreciate you being a patron, though, Jason.
Oh yeah.
Do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And
I got Ryan here again. It seems like physical books are having a resurrection of coming back. Yeah, because it seems like bookstores were going out of business there for quite a while.
right.
For a while, I thought everyone was doing digital, but it seems like Barnes and Noble and Target seem to still have plenty. I still go to Barnes and Nobles, and there's still a lot of people there, and there's still a lot of books. I mean, I still go to Barnes and Nobles and buy books myself. But I do of course, I have physical copies of Blu-rays, vinyl, CDs, books behind me. Right. I don't know. I always liked physical stuff. I do have a Kindle. I do read off of that. But I don't know. There's something about buying a physical book I kind of enjoyed. Same thing with movies. I like having a physical movie. I like having the vinyl. I do listen to Spotify. I do watch streaming. But I don't know. There's still something out there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think it's just one of those kind of, it's great to have the physical copy there as well. And it's just like, it's just really cool to have like physical media or like a physical book. Like Emma's a huge bookworm, so she's always indoors, or like ourselves, like physical media.
I was gonna say, you just look behind you and me, and it's fun to show off. I mean, it's fun to put in your background, and I just like looking at it and just going, oh, like there's that,
Yeah, or like even just like the collector's items and stuff. We got like even just like a steel book. I'm like, oh man, I'm like,
oh yeah, I love looking at
one I picked up recently. I'm like, you're never going to get that kind of artwork on like just a streaming copy with like 3 discs. You're never going to get that.
Yeah, it just looks nice on your shelf, and I do love that.
Right, exactly.
Quite a bit. Plus, they can never take it away from you. I've sometimes they'll take a digital thing, they'll take off. Like, for instance, there's been some controversy with Spotify, and so there's been some artists like I think Joni Mitchell and what's his name, Neil Young, have taken their music off of Spotify because they disagreed with something. And so I can't listen to their music, and I love their music, and like I have to get their physical copies because I can't, or I can go on YouTube maybe or something like that. But still, just kind of it makes you think, like, if I don't have that physical copy, what if they take it away? And
right.
You know what I mean? But
definitely.
So Mike's asking, in UK, do you have many bookstores there?
We have a few. Yeah, a bit like you guys, like with Barnes and Noble. That's probably like your biggest bookstore that's across America. We have a store called Waterstones.
Waterstones. Okay.
That's over here. It's like in pretty much like every town. There's also a shop called The Works. The Works, they sell like kind of stationery, but also they have like a book section as well. The supermarkets, they have they have books as well. But mainly like Waterstones normally. That's the biggest probably one, yeah.
Okay, and maybe local pop and shop stores maybe still have.
You get a couple of those, or you get like a couple of like unique bookstores, but they're like not a franchise. They might just be like a one shop kind of thing. W.H. Smith also, yeah. I never go in there, so I didn't think of that. That's a good point, Lewis.
Yeah, there used to be a bunch of different kind of bookstores when I was a kid. There was Walden's, I think. There was I can't remember the names anymore. It's been such a long time, but I remember there was different kinds. And I remember going to the bookstore and it was closed, like it was no longer there anymore. And I'm like, man, what happened? This was a major bookstore with a bunch of different, you know, stores all over the place. And it was gone. All of a sudden it was gone. And this was back in the 2000s. I mean, like, you know, 20 years ago. This I remember seeing bookstores go away. And yeah, Barnes and Noble has been the big one that's still around. That, like I said, still has a lot of books, still a lot of people. It's still pretty busy when I go, so it's good to see.
Again, I think it's because like these stores have adapted though, because as you mentioned before, when like Kindle first got announced,
Yeah,
like so many people were like, oh wow, like for £10 a month, I can get all these books I can read, and they're like usually like it's £10 or like $10 per book. You're like, wow, this is a steal.
yeah,
But it's like having a physical copy and about just like owning that, like a brand new book can cost, say, for you guys, say $10, $20.
$20. Yeah, oh yeah,
And
$30.
that's even on the digital platform to buy, before you can actually have the physical copy for the same price. At least you can just give that around to a friend or read it again,
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
and then you've got storage, of course, as well, and the digital devices can only store so many. So, yeah, it's just research. A bit like vinyl. Vinyl went away and then it's bounced back better than ever.
Big
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah.
I hope there's always physical copies of books. Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely like newspapers are kind of went out, and magazines I think kind of went out because of digital. But
I think it's just because like with that though, there's so many news outlets now, like
yeah,
YouTube,
oh,
Facebook.
yeah,
Like these newspaper websites, but online, so saves some money printing. Just do
oh
digital.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't think there's a need really for a newspaper to an extent. But like books, yeah, definitely. CDs, Blu-rays, DVDs, 4Ks. Yeah, there definitely need still. Yeah.
yeah. Just say about like for instance, my dad he worked at a printing company for like I don't know, I want to say like 45 plus years. I mean, he was at the same job for his whole since he was 18 till from 18 to 65. He had the same job. I mean, he went up the ladder and got better positions in the
Right.
company. But they printed I think mostly like menus and whatever. I don't know what, maybe instruction manuals. I don't know. It printed a bunch of stuff, and so he was in the printing, which was a big back in 1970 whatever when he started. That was a big deal. Well, towards the end there, they're starting to downsize quite a bit because there just wasn't much printing going on,
Right.
and about maybe 6 months before he was going to retire, the job that was no longer there. the company went away or whatever. They what's the word? Went out of business, I guess, or something.
Right.
And so my dad had to retire about 6 months earlier than he was planning on it because all of a sudden he didn't have a job because he was just in a job that went away. It was unfortunate. So, luckily, he was right at retirement age, so he was able just to kind of go in retirement. But yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, printing just, I definitely saw it through my dad's job, how printing just went away because it's easier to do everything digitally, all that.
Right.
But
Yeah,
anyways,
it's a shame.
yeah. Lou says private owned bookstores are dying trade nowadays. There's always little shops here and there, but hard to find. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those, like even in Barnes Nobles when I went to America last year and went in one. Like
Oh yeah.
Barnes Nobles, it has a lot of books, but also has like pop Funkos in there, board games in there.
It has all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah, so they've had to expand
Yeah.
beyond just books, otherwise might be out of business,
Oh, very true. Yeah, they have all kinds of stuff. I go there and they have a lot of board games. I look at times and uh, Yeah, all kinds of stuff you can buy. It's kind of nice. A lot of times they have like a little place where you can buy some coffee or something.
Yeah, yeah,
So you get your book, you get some coffee, you sit down and you drink. And
right,
I
right.
used to do that. I used to go and just sit down and read a book
Nothing wrong with that.
just to get away from home or something, you know.
Yeah, like just nice
Anyway,
chill out area, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a chill out area. You're just like
Right.
you have Wi-Fi, so you get on your laptop.
All good.
Yeah. Anyways, well, yeah. Thanks, Lewis. All right. Kind of going along with what we've been talking about here. So when your first draft of your book, when you're first writing that thing out, did you plan it to be this length, or did you write more and then decide to uh, edit it, or did you write and decide to expand, or was it always
Yeah.
77 pages?
Yeah, it was actually expanded. Yeah,
Oh,
so when I originally wrote it, I think it was around 50 pages, I would
okay.
like to say. No, sorry, about 55 pages.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, as I said, like with adding those kind of character development
Like the
moments
dad.
in,
Yeah.
yeah, like adding stuff like that in, it padded the story out, add more about like Jennifer's like early teenage years, padded more of the story out and more of that backstory. I knew I always wanted to be a short story, because I probably, to be honest, I probably could have sat down and did it. I probably could expand this into a full novel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would be like a really entertaining novel to an extent
I
with the
mean, do you feel like
story.
this was the amount of time you needed to tell the story, kind of?
I think I personally writing a book. I personally think so. Now there might be people who read this and be like, "Oh, I wish there was maybe another 50 pages here. I wish we had
Mm.
more on this." And there's room for that. But I just don't think it's needed. I think the story just gets straight to the point. There's no like slow moments in it. It's all kind of go, 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 but not to the point where you can't catch your breath, because you can. But I feel like it's just like, right, we get from this point, we tell a story that's what you need to know for this part. You get this part here, this tells the next part of the story and explains that. And I try to give like enough explanation with each part as it goes on. So yeah, I feel like the story for me personally, I think it's the right amount.
Okay, that's interesting. I think of like a book like the same way I see a movie. I guess I get there's definitely like a pacing to it. You don't want to get slogged down too much,
Right.
uh, and you don't want it to be too long. That's always my complaint when I watch a movie. I go, man, if they would have cut this movie by 20 minutes, I think it would have been better. Or I feel like there's some added stuff
Right.
that might not be there. So it's definitely good not to be too long. I think that's probably I would think.
Yeah. Well, just to add to that very quickly is, again, like given our experiences of reading books or watching movies, for example, like in some books that I've read in the past, they go on like pages explaining a tree. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't want to know about a tree unless it's got massive relevance in the story.
right. To the plot.
Whereas I feel like in this book, the only time it goes into like really detail is when it gets to Ethan Isaac's house, because he's rich, and it's like completely different to what we get in the book. Like we don't really get like explanation of people's houses, but that
Mm-hmm.
one, it's important because having a huge blowout party, so you're
Mm-hmm.
going to want to know, well, is it
Right.
a huge house to take on that amount of people that's going to be there or not? So I feel like if you're going to put explanation in the book, for me personally, put it in where it's going to matter, and it adds to that scene or story at least,
Yeah,
which it
exactly.
does for him personally, for me. But yeah, like see, like even in movies, sometimes like the cinematography, like say for best picture, they'll focus on an image for like 10 seconds before it cuts to the next scene,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just like, it's a beautiful image, but I don't need 10 seconds. I could have done 2 seconds,
Nice,
cut to
but
the scene,
yeah,
or
I
like
agree.
movie, or like when the movie rolls in, for example, and it like has like a title card and be like starring Tom Hanks, starring this person, then eventually gets to be the director of the movie and tells you the person and cuts into the movie.
Yeah.
Well, that stuff is, if it's not an interesting title card, I'm just like
Yeah,
fast
me
forward,
too. Yeah. Like I
right?
don't care.
And then sometimes yourself though, it saves you like 2 minutes of the movie, 2-3 minutes, and you're like, But why did we need that for? We could have condensed those
Yeah,
titles into like a minute, been done with.
I know.
So yeah, I thought when I was writing this book and going forward, even in other books, I don't want to, like write so much about something that's just absolutely pointless just to fill a book. I'd rather not.
Yeah, I read a lot of fantasy books, and they're just way too long. Like I started reading some Stephen King, and his books are like 1,000 pages. So the books I'm reading, and I'm just like, I spend too much time on this one thing. And I'm like,
Right.
why not edit this down? And
I think it's different with fantasy, as you've said, though, because it's a completely different genre. If you're building the world up from scratch, you
right,
need to kind of explain everything because you're
yeah,
not there. Whereas
right,
I feel like with my book, I got lucky where you don't need a world building.
right, true,
You need to know about a certain couple of places, and like that's it. Whereas his books, of course, like say It, for example,
yeah,
you need to know about the whole town of Derry and
right,
Pennywise and stuff. So
yeah.
I can get that, but there is parts of that. You're right. You think, do I really need to know that much about this
Right.
tree?
I don't need to know
Maybe
that much
not.
about that tree. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Kind of stuff.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Um, I know. I guess we've been talking about this, but I guess the kind of question that goes along with this. I think about
Sure.
when I write a paper, like I said, or write a paper for college or something like that. You get the idea, like, all right, here's my idea, and now I need to figure out how I'm going to put this idea down. Where do I start? My experience is like I believe when I wrote a paper it was like I write an outline. Like, okay, first I'm going to talk about this, then this. I kind of order what I'm going to talk about. Do it that way. Is that similar to writing a book? Do you outline it at all, or do you just start writing, or how's that?
Bit of both. Bit of both. Yeah. So a lot of the time with the writing, like Suicide Rumor and the new book that I'm working on,
Mhm.
I like to kind of just like go in and just start writing.
Okay.
Like don't get me wrong, in my mind I've got a bit of an idea what I want to happen and like the general plot,
Right.
but I'm just like
Right.
make it up as I go.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't sound great again, I can just delete it, put new stuff in.
Okay.
You know.
Interesting.
So yeah. So again, there's parts I'm just like, look, let's just go for it. Right. So I know I need to start from obviously the book has a sad ending. So I was like, right, I need to start from how we get from the beginning all the way to there. And
Yeah.
an introduction to this character who you don't know
Right.
anything about. So
Yeah.
yeah, just usually start writing, and sometimes I'll have an out like so. For example, a new book which I'll talk about maybe at the end. Like I have got more of an outline for that because it's more of an intricate story.
Okay.
But yeah, this one I kind of meant more like just writing. I look just go for it and see how it plays out. Really.
Because I feel like that's kind of intimidating when you first start something like that. Let's say, and it kind of be kind of scary to me that first idea of like okay, I got this idea now. Where do I start? How do I get the ball rolling? And I'm sure after you start, then it just starts kind of rolling, and you start kind of getting a
Yeah.
flow maybe to it. I don't know. Um, Obviously, like I said, you probably start with like, all right, I need to introduce characters probably, or uh, I need to start something. And then go from there. And maybe once you get that out of the way, then it kind of maybe frees you up. I don't know.
It's interesting because if you ever do the writing, Jason, or anyone watching for that matter, like even if you even if you just start randomly typing up one day, be like, right, I just got this idea, let me start try to write this down. Worst case, you might find, well, actually, that part will go in the middle of your book.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because you might start writing and be like, well, actually, Jennifer Orange at this age is like
I
15
like
years
it,
old.
but maybe a different place.
Yeah, like there might be a part where I was like, oh, Jennifer Orange is 15 now. But I'm like, well, hold on, I need to get to when she was a baby. I need to explain that part first. So I'm like, oh, well, at least I've got this part when she was 15 for later on. At least that part will, I can start writing to join that part in, like from the beginning to get to that part. So best advice I can give is just start writing. Just go for it.
Okay,
And
just go for it. Yeah.
if it doesn't work, rub it out. No one's watching you. No one's watching over your shoulder, being like, "Oh, shouldn't do that." Best advice I can give.
Well, in my mind, I think like okay, you need a, of course, you need a, well, you need a starting point. Like, where do I start with the story? Obviously, ending is very important. You have to think, okay, what's a good ending to the story, and then I got to fill in the gaps, I guess. And
Sure.
also, you have to think about characters. I'm guessing, like, I would think for me, I would have to think of, okay, what characters do I? But it sounds like, so you write and then you say, okay, I need a character here, and so you come up with one during the story, or do you come up with characters
Yeah.
before you start writing, or?
No.
Oh,
So sometimes yes, sometimes no. So with this book in particular, it is more, as I said, I want the female-led character, um, and to challenge myself. That was the main reason for that. So as soon as I had that character, I was like, right, so she needs a family. That's the
mhm,
overall story. So I was like, need them. But then as I was starting to write, I'd be like, oh, well, let me introduce the bullies into this. Like, where are they going to fit into this? Like, are they going to be a part of a present story? Or are they going to be part of a backstory? And then I was like, right, well, let's throw Sienna into this. How do I throw, um, you know, now I need a guy who's going to host a party who's a jerk. Right, so now I need to throw him into here. So yeah, so some characters I had planned, but not a lot of them. A lot of them just threw in as I start writing, really.
okay. Because I think, because reading your book, of course, there's a need to, and you do this. You describe the look of a character. Of course, that's a big part of it, right? I think
Right.
you'll say, "Here's so and so, and she's this tall. She has this color of hair." I'm thinking this is the things that I don't know if this is what you think about when you come up with a character. You probably come up with like hair color, how tall they are, and then also like how skinny, are they fat? That's
Sure.
kind of similar, or I don't know what else you have to add to that. But that's some
Mhm.
basics, maybe.
Yeah. So like when I write characters like that, like more side characters, I mainly give them just basic kind of
Yeah, yeah,
abbreviations of what they look like. Really, I don't need to go into depth. Like, oh, they've got a freckle on their left cheek.
yeah, yeah.
Unless it's something distinctive about that character that you need to know to make them like really memorable. Because some of the characters here, yeah, they're important, but some are more important than others. So I don't
Hmm.
want to take the focus away, being like, oh, remember that freckle kid in that book?
Hmm.
Yeah, you really need to know about him. He's in for one
Okay.
scene, but you need to know.
Yeah,
No, I kind of try to give basics, so at least you have a general idea what they kind of look like.
and you have to come up with a personality trait, maybe, of a character. Do you,
Mhm.
again? I guess you just kind of come up with that, or do you write down like, okay, I want this person to be mean. I want this person to be nice. I don't know. I want
Yeah.
this person to be sweet. I want this person to be rough. I don't know if you come up. I want this person to be smart or dumb, or I don't know if that
So
comes to writing or.
so that kind of stuff falls into the part where I'm doing the writing and like how the story goes along. So when it cuts to kind of like Sienna, sorry, Jennifer present day, she's got a friend called Sienna. So when that happened and I got to that part, I'm like, right, well, hold on. She needs a friend who is nice, but she
Mhm.
needs a friend who maybe is a bit of an opposite to her personality.
Yeah, you don't want to be all the same personality, obviously, right?
Right, right. But like Sienna is a complete different personality to Jennifer.
Hmm.
Is completely, yeah, they have some similarities, but she's totally different. She's more into kind of like the dating scene and more
Right.
kind of social media, whereas Jennifer's not to an extent.
Yeah.
So they're like contrast. So that's why Jennifer's like, oh well, what do I do in this situation? As the book starts to unravel. Um, so yeah, I think it depends on the situation as I'm writing it. And I'm like, right, I need this character in here. What are they going to be like? Really?
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I suppose there's different ways to do it. That's just your process, maybe.
I find it works for me because so
Yeah.
a lot of the time I like writing as I'm going
Yeah.
because don't get me wrong, this might work better for other people, but I've never been
Yeah.
a one to be like, right, let me write 20 pages of notes and then start writing here because I'm just thinking sometimes what if I lose interest and I've just spent time doing that? I could have wrote and got into actual story writing.
Okay.
And but don't get me wrong, like as I'm going, if I have a character, I'll make a side note. So I remember like, right, this is the character, this is what age they are at this point when I'm
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah.
I'll do that, but I'll write that as I'm going.
That's a
You
good
know?
point. I want to forget what the character is.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what does this character look like? I have to go back and read what I wrote. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll write notes as I go, but I don't have like 20 page of notes going into a story. Not for me anyway.
Yeah, funny thing, if you know George R. R. Martin, who wrote the Song of Ice and Fire series, which is Game of Thrones, which he
Right.
still hadn't finished yet. He's still working on that series.
Yeah. Crazy.
Of course, his book is so of course, obviously it's a big world building, different it, tons of different characters and different all this and different nationalities and different countries or what I don't know what I'm gonna say. But
Right.
he forgets. I've heard him in interviews say like he forgets certain characters, but he knows a guy who reads all of his books and like has a really good memory, and so he'll write to his friend and go, "Who's this character again?" Which I thought was funny because George R. R. Martin's this amazing writer. He writes these really great books that sell a lot, and still he's like, I don't remember details about this character, so I have to go to somebody who remembers.
Right, but I mean, but something like that though, he probably had planned from the beginning a big fantasy series, So he's got to make the world building, he's got to make these characters, and all these characters have got to have families. Then they've got to fight and betray each other, and then there's incest involved, and it's just like,
and you have this whole geography you have to come up with, and religion, and oh my gosh, yeah.
So I can imagine why you probably get confused sometimes.
Oh yeah, I was like, I don't know how he does it, but he has problems. He's like,
right,
I need help remembering these things, which is kind of catching me funny. Anyways, so with a book like this, I feel like the ending, that's like the most important part. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but
sure,
that ending, I mean, is very impactful, I'll just say. And it's what really makes the book, I would say, in a way. Do you start with that ending and work yourself backwards at all? Like, when did you come up with that ending? Did you come up with that really early in the process and go, okay, this is how I'm going to end the book, and so now I need to figure out how to get to that ending?
Okay, I'm trying to think how I word this about spoilers. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm just trying to think how I word this about spoilers because it's got a different thought pattern. So I knew ultimately the ending needed to be big, to the point where it's going to shock you again. I wanted to go for a twist, so I was like, I need something here where it's going to be impactful, but also gets the message Suicide Rumour across, because again, as I mentioned, I don't want to be one where I just throw this message in the book in every single chapter. It's in your face, because I don't like that myself personally with mediums, however it's spread. But I was like, I need the ending to be important, but I also need stuff to happen in the book that leads to that ending. And maybe it's obvious, maybe it's not obvious. Again, I'm not safe for spoilers. But I knew the ending had to be big and leave you on kind of like oh man, like what? Like that happened? Like that's the reaction I wanted, and that's what like I kind of felt when I wrote and like read that back.
Yeah.
So I didn't. Again, I had a general idea how I wanted the book to end, but I didn't start on the ending.
Okay.
Because I think if I did that, I'd be like, right, well, how many more chapters do I need to get to this point at the end? I was just like, right, this is the ending I want. I need to build my way up to get to that. And then as I'm going along, I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, these parts in the book here is going to lead to that at the end. But maybe it's not in your face. You have to like carefully read it to see it in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I just think like when writing a paper, the first chapter is like very important, or first whatever, to hook the reader in. You want to hook the reader in, because if the reader starts reading and they're like, I'm bored, they might stop reading, so so you hit them at the beginning. This is just me spitballing here, I guess. Whatever, writing, whatever that is. You hook them in at the beginning, and then you want a good ending to leave them thinking at the end. I don't know if that's what you thought of at all.
Yeah, so a bit like you put it perfectly. Yeah, when writing this book, and again, writing future ones for that matter as well. Yeah, I want to start it off where the beginning is gonna grab your attention, and you're going to care for the
Hmm.
rest of the book, or
Okay.
at least try to give the reader something to care about going forward. Because if I start this book off being like, oh, the town of Wakens is inhabited by 60 people, and it does this and this and this about this town, I'm
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, people who really care about world building is going to love that.
Uh-huh.
But like the general reader, like myself, I'd be like,
Okay.
in a way, um,
You start with the
on
character, basically, right?
yeah. So I like the start because this book is about Jennifer Orange,
Yeah.
and the plot itself was in her name. So I'm like,
Yeah.
right,
The relationship with her family, you kind of hit at the beginning, I think, of the book, if I remember right.
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, when I started this book, I'm like, right, I need to give people a reason to care for this girl. Otherwise, by the time as the book starts to run out, you're just not going to care. You're going to be like, right, snooze fest, put that down. Nah, I didn't like it.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, because you know yourself in any movie and stuff you watch as well, you
Oh,
want
yeah.
character development, you want to root for that character,
Yeah.
so you need to know about them, and that's where I want to start. Like any book I'm due, I want to start with a character and you learn
Okay.
about them
Yeah, that's a good
in a
idea.
way. Unless it's something big you need to know about before any of that, then I'll start something different.
Okay. Cool. Was that ending? Was that always so? It sounds like did that have to go through different drafts, or were you
No,
like, did you do it and then you go, I don't like this ending, I'm gonna change it up, or
nah.
okay,
I came up with that ending, and I was like,
you're like,
that's
"That's it."
that's the one, that's
Okay.
the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
because don't get me wrong, I could have changed it. There's stuff in the book that happens for anyone who's not read it that I could have changed that ending, but I was just like, nah, nah. For what happens, I was like, it's done in a special way. I think
Mhm.
for
Oh yeah,
me.
yeah, definitely. Um, all right, so there's some kind of just general questions about you, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe we've answered these already. I'm just kind of going through my questions on my book. I'm not a professional interviewer, but I
I
try.
doing a cracking job.
I try. So yeah, I guess generally, have you just always wanted to write books? Is that something that comes on recently, or has it been that way since you were younger? I don't know.
Yeah, but I've always had kind of like a fondness to write, being honest. Yeah, I've always wanted to do it. I've always just kind of, again, just being creative. I'd always just wanted to just give it a go. If it doesn't work, delete my manuscript. If YouTube didn't work, turn the camera off, delete the video. No one's gonna see it.
Okay.
I'm not like a famous person in the media outlets, who would screen share it and screen record, take snippets, be like, remember when this person did this? Like, I think that's what we have a luxury of if you're not really known to an extent,
Hmm.
like not in a bad way,
Right.
just general.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always like giving it a go, and if it's something that I like doing and something I enjoy, and people are enjoying it, then I'm like, right, I'm doing something right. I know that you told me you enjoyed the book. I know Jacob Martin like really enjoyed the book, and like it
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
inspired him to kind of open up a little bit about his personal life, which was incredible. I didn't expect
Okay.
that kind of response.
Cool.
Like Dave and Turpin Stars really liked the book as well. Um, and I wanted him to like it because I was like, if you're going to proofread it, I want you to like the book, of course. If you
Oh
didn't, it'd
man,
be a
I
bit
got to
awkward.
proofread Mike's book.
And oh
Oh
man,
no,
I'll message him, tell him I'm busy.
I'm just. I see
So
you on YouTube
like
right now. What do you mean you're busy?
right. So that's it for me, right? So like, if anyone reads this and they actually turn around and say, Mike, I didn't enjoy that book. That sucked. Then that's fair enough. I don't expect everyone to like the book. I would appreciate if someone was to write that, give some criticism as to why and
Yeah. Yeah.
what maybe you didn't like about it and what I could have done
Hmm.
better. At least I know for next time. Like, oh yeah, that will work better next time. But yeah, I've always had kind of a passion. Always wanted to give it a go, and it just turns out that I really enjoyed doing this one. So I definitely got more in the works.
Cool. Oh man. Um, I don't know how to quite answer this or ask this question, so this is the best way I can do it.
Hmm.
Is like, is there anything that you've written before you wrote this book? I mean, I don't know how you come across going, hey, I guess you can maybe answer this already. You're just like, hey, I like writing, so I'm gonna write. But I don't know. Is there? I guess to me, I would think like before I wrote a book, I'm thinking, can I do it? Do I have the gift? I mean, was there anything in your life that you wrote that someone said, "Oh, hey, you're really good at writing," or anything like that that you wrote that said, "Hey, I think I could write a book," or
No.
okay,
Natural answer. No, so it's one of those where I didn't write something to be like, oh, let me go ask my mum what she thinks of my writing, because my mum, because for example, if I did that, my mum would be like, oh, that's great, son, like fantastic.
you're fantastic.
Yeah. And don't get wrong, huge shout out to my mum, Sandra, love her to pieces. But like she would, as a parent, you would be supportive, right? You're not going to say to your
Right.
kid, that sucks, or if I wrote something now and said, "Oh, Emma, tell me if that's good, if this is actually worth like writing or not," because she's more likely she'd be like, "Yeah, it's really good," in a way, she'd probably be more critical, which is good, But yeah, I didn't really seek approval. As I said, I just went for it, and
Okay.
the real reception I'm going to find out is anyone who buys this book, right? Anyone who takes time to generally read this book, they're going to tell me only, "Yeah, I like that." Nah, it's not for me.
I mean, did you do you just think you have the gift for writing, or is it a natural gift? You think at all, or just
No.
uh,
No. So again, it's one of those, Jason, where I've never been a person of like an egotistical person, or at least I don't think I am.
uh-huh.
I didn't think when I write this, right, this is going to be a #1 hit.
This is
You
number
know,
one.
yeah, I've never thought that about myself. Even with YouTube, every video I upload on YouTube, I don't think this is going to be a big mega hit and it's going to get millions of views. I hope for the best. Of course, I want to succeed. I think everyone does in whatever they do,
Right. Yeah.
but it's never been one I've just thought. I think it's one of those, right, where if I tried to seek approval before I wrote this and before I be like, right, let's get some ideas down. Let me show a bunch of people, see what they think first. More than likely, then people you're going to ask are going to tell you it's good because they're supportive friends or family, which is not a bad thing,
Right.
but they want to support you.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I could do that, then erase it, and everyone, general public, was like, "Well, that was terrible. Like, what were you even thinking?"
Yeah.
So I'd rather, as I said, I'd give it a go. When I wrote the book, I gave it a go. I read it over, and I thought to myself, "This is something that personally I wouldn't mind reading myself." Because like you said, like the world building and fantasy stuff, like I've never been able to get massively into something like that because it's just so long and it takes book after book after book to get into it and
Yeah.
find out by number 4 book what happened in number 1. Really?
Yeah. Like what? Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I
And
forget.
that's
I'm like, who's this guy again? Like,
right, but that's great for fantasy books and building them worlds, and I applaud anyone like George R. Martin, anyone who even tries to tackle something like that.
yeah.
Maybe in the future I might, but definitely not in the near future.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, for me, it's just giving it a go, right? If I read it over and I think, right, it's a relatable story. What I've got here, I think people might enjoy. I just went on the kind of gut feeling, thinking, look, might enjoy it. If they don't, then they don't.
Right. I mean, because you look, of course, you've been reading that book probably quite a lot, rereading it,
Mhm.
and so I guess to you, it's hard. It's hard to tell, I suppose, when you're reading your own writing. I've never done that necessarily myself.
Mm.
I don't know. You can look at it and go, "Okay, I think I got something here," or you think, I don't think I got something here." Or, I don't know. How,
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's one of those where I don't know if I necessarily thought that, but when I was reading it over, like if there was any parts I felt like was a little bit too long, or like could have been trimmed down, I trimmed it down or took it out, because it's one of those where sometimes when you have a video game or even a movie, you're like, I really hate that one scene that happens in this movie.
right.
It's
Right.
so boring. It
Yeah.
didn't need to, or this it didn't have that in here. It would be great. Or like books, as you mentioned, like Stephen King ones you've read. It sometimes goes so much explanation. Like that really needed to be in here. So like with this, as I said, it's just a short story. For me, when I was reading it, I was like, it's an easy read. I'm not bored. I can't see there's a chapter here for me personally. I was like, I hate this chapter. I dread getting to this chapter in the book. For me, when I read it
Yeah.
over, I was personally just enjoying what I wrote, which is good. I enjoyed it. If I thought it was boring, I would have took it out and thought, nah, get rid. Didn't need to be in there. So I think it's all just about having that confidence, just to give it a go.
Okay. That seems to be the theme so far. Give it a go.
Yeah. Right. I'm like a
Which
parrot.
is cool. I like that. That's a good advice or whatever to somebody. Um, I guess I'm just thinking back on the book, like at the very beginning of the book, before the story starts. Actually, I want to say you do
Sure.
this whole section on suicide and
Right.
awareness, kind of. I would say, I guess, and that there's a big problem, and you get some statistics, I believe, as well, and all
Yeah.
that. Anyways, which I liked. That was interesting to you know because it's kind of connects to the book itself. Is that something you've researched, you've been interested in the whole suicide awareness thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not afraid to admit that at one point when I've had down moments in my life, I've used like a charity service called Samaritans before, which is over in the UK anyway. It is a service for if you are down or you're feeling maybe in that kind of state to an extent. So,
Hmm.
so I've used that before, and it's been really helpful.
Okay.
I've seen them at like video game conventions. I go to Insomnia on my channel. I cover twice a year if I go. Normally they have like a booth there, just there to talk if anyone wants to talk, which is cool. So yeah, when I wrote this book, I thought, well, hold on. You hear about this happening, or sometimes you hear, about tragic events where people's jumping off a bridge, for example, or other mediums, however they do it. And I'm just like, well, how many people does this actually affect? Because I didn't know like by the numbers statistics. I try to say that way. I can't say it too much. But the stats, I don't know number by number stats of like how many people do it, per year this affects, or and I think it's crazy because I think we all know someone or know of someone who knows someone that this has happened to. Um, and yeah, like when I was putting our stats in, I was like, it's just that's super important for people to know that this is something maybe bigger than you thought it would be. Like
Mm.
when I read that stat originally, I was like, what? Like what? Right? Wow, really? Like that affects that many people?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like I need to include this because I was like, this really needs like people need to know more about this. And I don't think it gets talked about a lot. That's one big theme I want to kind of discuss in here.
Yeah. Just to say, in my personal life, I work at a hospital, and I've told Mike this before, I guess, is like I have to look over so many suicidal patients that are there. And a lot of times they're 12-year-olds, and I'm sitting there because I have to watch them to make sure they don't hurt themselves, and so I'm sitting there watching this 12-year-old, and they're having this conversation with their parents, and it's like, I'm sitting there, I'm hearing this because I can't not hear because I'm sitting there having to chart on what's going on, and so I'm like, man, I'm like experiencing this person at a very impactful point in this person's life, and
Right.
I have nothing to do with it. I just happen to be working, and I'm there, and so it's so weird having to have to listen to so many personal things that are going on with these people's lives, and I'm just sitting there like, oh man, like, and it feels so bad and terrible, you know.
Well, it's one of those where something like that situation, Jason, as you said, it's very real to start with. You don't, and sometimes it's not comparing your life to theirs or anything, but you might think, oh, when I was 12, you're like what was I doing? You're like, oh, maybe I was out playing sports or watching TV.
Playing video games, yeah.
Right. Whereas this person, as you mentioned, a 12-year-old, like feeling like that, and you just
Well,
think, like, maybe how did they get to like that?
well, I tell you, a lot of times I hear them talk about divorce, like the parents are divorced, and that's just a very unfortunate thing that's ruined a lot of kids' lives, and
Right.
you
Right.
know, and I didn't come from that, so I was lucky that way. But yeah,
Sure.
it's
Sure.
just very sad to see. Um, so anyways, to say, yeah, I totally get that whole statistics and stuff, and what the problem definitely is. I think the problem's growing, which is sad to see. I think amongst young people, I guess I think about the younger people is
Yeah,
what I see a lot, and it's just
yeah,
very sad. Anyways,
yeah. I
uh,
agree.
a question that I know all writers get this, so I feel like I need to ask you.
Okay.
Uh, did you ever get what they call writer's block? Is a thing that's always thrown out there, where you're
Hmm.
writing, and all of a sudden you don't know where to go with the story, and you're struggling with it, and so you have to kind of step away and come back. Is that something that's ever happened to you?
Not at the moment,
Okay.
no. Which it's a blessing, I guess, at the moment. But
Yeah.
I've only done one book, Jason. Give it time. I,
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I feel like with this next book I'm working on, I'm probably going to hit that at some point. I think because it's a lot more
Yeah.
grander scale.
It sounds like it's something that's pretty common. I guess that's what I always hear people talk about is getting quote
Yeah,
unquote writer's block, which it could be writing a book. It could be writing a song. Songwriters get writer's block.
right.
Screenplay people who write screenplays for movies get writer's block when they're writing screen. I know, so it's just something.
Hey, well, heck, sometimes I get YouTuber's block where I'm just like, what video do I put out? What video do I make?
Right.
So it'll happen, yeah. I think what helped me through this book with that process very quickly, I think it was just a case, as I said before, about kind of like writing a line a day.
Hmm.
So when in that book, I was like, right, well, regardless of how I felt that day, if I've had a good day, a bad day, whether I've had a day where I've worked 11-hour shift, I'm going to load up my laptop, write a line in this book. Maybe I have an idea what I want to write. Maybe it'll just come to me as I'm writing. And, one line or two lines, depend if I feel inspired, maybe 10 pages, who knows? And save my work, close it down. So I was constantly on it every day. So it wasn't like being like, oh, I'll leave it for a week and I'll come back to it.
Hmm.
Because I feel like if you do that, it can definitely probably help people. You might need that mental kind of block, which is good. Take that time if you need it. But I feel like if you keep on top of it, and it's even if you try to inspire for a line or two a day, you're always going to think, right, what am I going to write next? And it doesn't leave you too long to until you start again.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of writers. They have kind of a rule of like you need to write this amount of every day. You need to write, I don't know, for so many hours, or you need to write, like so much. And I suppose because if you stop writing for too long, it's hard to get back into it, maybe. And of course, if you're writing a book, you're trying to finish it. You
Right.
probably don't want to take too long to finish it, maybe, I guess. And so it's the thing where, or maybe you just get better. The more you write, the better you probably get, maybe. And so
Yeah,
write every
I,
day.
I think it's different for. I think that's like a rule for different people, right? So I think, as you said, when I first started, I did a line a day. Then it started turning to like maybe two a day, or then maybe a page a day, or 2 pages a day, or I'd have a day where I'd sit at like a local Starbucks, like away from home, put my music in, and just write and write and
Right.
write.
Yeah.
And I did loads, and I was like, wow, 8 pages, wow, okay. But I think it's different because the likes of myself, right? And let's say if you ever start writing yourself, that no one's telling you how quick to write this. And you haven't got someone being like, right, Jason, I need this in by 9 months' time. You've got
Right.
till September 23.
Oh
You need
man,
to
I
be
hate
done.
that.
Right, but you haven't got that restrict like YouTube. You don't have a
Right.
boss telling you to upload a
Exactly.
video. You do it on your own. So for me, I've got that luxury at the moment of just being an independent writer, just write it when I want and get it done. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to leave it too late, but I haven't got someone to tell me or riding down my neck saying that you've got to get it done. Whereas say like big writer like Stephen King, his publisher's like, right, Stephen, we need this by December this year. Get writing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Yes.
everything's different, of
Yes.
course.
Dates. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, it's different. They will have like deals and contracts, so many
Yeah.
books a
Yeah.
year and stuff,
Yeah.
So that's probably why they're stressed. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Uh, I know my experience. Well, I remember when I first getting to college, and they would give you. I don't know if you had this experience at all.
Hmm.
Um, uh, they give you the syllabus, which is just bonkers. When you come out of high school, it's just like, all right, read this chapter and
Right.
do the questions on the back, and after we finish the chapter, we'll take a test, and you'll write like a paper at the end. I don't know. It's you kind of can pace yourself as you go, and then you get into college. They just give it to you all at once. At least my experience is they go, all right, you have to write a paper by this date, and then a paper by this date, and we're going to take a test on this date. And so you better be sure you're reading the material and be ready for the test, and you better be sure to turn that paper in. And you just get it, and you're like, oh my god, like you get overwhelmed because you're thinking, oh my god, I got papers to write, even though they're later, you don't have to get them right away, but still your brain thinks, oh my god, I have 3 papers I have to write, and
yeah.
I can't tell me how many times I like wrote my paper at 2 a.m. and I had to hand it in like at 8 a.m. or something like that. And I'm just like, it's like 2 a.m. I'm just like, oh my God, I gotta get this paper. Like I waited till the very last second to write it, and I write it and I turn it in and I pass. I'm like, oh God. Like I hated that much.
Yeah, exactly, right. So that's like, as you say, like under the pressure time scale.
Yeah.
I didn't have that so much say because I didn't go to like university we have here basically for like those papers kind of thing. But like in school when I had to, like it was in drama class, because I had to learn my lines in a set period of time and I had to be on that stage to perform what I was doing. Or when I went to study catering and cooking in college, I had to learn how to cook a dish in a certain amount of time because it was going in the restaurant to be served to the public, So I can get that. It's stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking back about that question. I asked you about I don't know why this is not coming up to my mind, just to say when I was asking about sorry.
Sorry. Go good.
Well, why did you think like you could write a book kind of idea? I guess, and where I came from in YouTube, and this is where I asked the question, I guess, is that for me, like I always wanted to do YouTube kind of thing. I mean, not always, but I always had kind of inkling to do YouTube. And I thought, man, I feel like I could do YouTube. I feel like I have the knowledge about movies and music that I could do something interesting. And I have tons of ideas. Like I have so many ideas. And so I was like, I really love to get these ideas out there. But I didn't have any confidence in myself that I could do it. Like I was like, what if I do it and nobody watches, and what if I'm terrible at it? I think, God, what if I try and I'm terrible, And so I did like a video on Facebook, like a live Facebook thing. And so I just did a video just to try it out and go, oh, I'll do this video. Anyways, and I had people say really nice things about the video. And someone said, I don't know what it is, but you got something, that I think you could do this. And it's only because of that I was like, okay, I'm gonna try YouTube. If that didn't work out, I probably never would have tried YouTube. But I really needed somebody, to go. That's why I was asking about you, like in writing. Like, I don't know how you start writing without someone saying, "Hey, I think you could do it." But it sounds like you just like, "Hey, I'm gonna try it and see if it works." And
yeah. I see. It's like for me personally, it's just like just give it a try and see how it goes. As I mentioned, I could write the book. I could, not know a single person and put it out there. And worst case scenario, if I knew no one whatsoever and just hope that someone luckily came across and Amazon bought it and maybe reviewed it, worst case, just delete it. I've still got the, if I ever go back one day, I could be like, oh, I've got it on my computer, it's saved. If I ever want to, if I get to know some people and maybe get someone to read it,
Yeah.
But I think it's just all about just trying it, As I mentioned, like YouTube, go back and watch my first ever video. Man, it sucks. I don't have the confidence to speak as I do now. Like the lighting's terrible, and like for this kind of interview, I've got like 2 lights here, so the lighting looks all right, But I knew nothing like that, and now, like as it's been going on, with all the stuff I've learned with, of course, YouTube with Anthony Perez being like a big guide in my life, really, with YouTube. Like when I've come across, say, Noran Rad 89, I've been able to kind of give Noran some kind of pointers from what I've learned. So to say, with thumbnails or video description box, Ryan, like yourself, like we and you've talked about YouTube before, and
Yeah.
the same with books, like if you were to ever try to take up, writing, or you ever wanted to do something like that, you could be like, oh, well, Mike, how did you do that? Like, what do I need to do to set up an Amazon account? What information do I need? And how do I do this and this? And then I could be like, oh, Jason, well, this is how I did it. This is what I pressed, And I've learned that. And, we were talking before about editors and how much they can cost to just get a proofreading done. Again, just through learning and practice and, having an interest in it, I've learned a lot of that stuff myself through Microsoft Word and just writing.
Mm-hmm.
So it just avoids that. So yeah, it's just a case of just trying it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you're waiting for an approval of someone,
Right.
you're either getting it straight away or you're waiting 10 years. To an extent. So yeah, again, it's one of those things. As I say, if I ask someone for just to give an honest opinion, more likely it's going to be a friend or family, and I'm going to tell you it's great.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, that's great, but that's not going to help me.
Right.
It could be terrible, but you're just saying it's great. So yeah.
It's a question you've been asked before, and I probably know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. And that is, what was the hardest part of the whole process of getting this book written, made, whatever?
Yeah, sure. So I think the hardest part for me personally, I think, was the theme of the book, right? So I was kind of, as I'm writing it and as I'm going along, how do I make this message in the book important, but not shoving it down people's throats, ultimately, this message? Because as we spoke before and as we've been speaking, I didn't want to make it a forefront of every chapter. I didn't want it to be like, it's, the first line in every chapter is suicide rumor.
Yeah.
Because that's people just going to be turned off by that straight. I would, as an audience member, I would be turned off straight away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's the dark matter of the books to start with.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, this is some pretty dark stuff here.
Yeah.
But just balancing that with a story that's also relatable. So yeah, I think the hardest part was that dark theme, but also making the story where it'd be like, right, main story people care about to get to the important ending.
Yeah, I know you said before, like writing the female lead was kind of one of the hard parts or something like that. But
it was definitely a hard part to it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the opposite side, what was the funnest part of the whole process?
The first part I had writing that book, I would say, was every day or every part in the story, Max comes downstairs to play a Christmas song because he's so excited for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, well, what Christmas songs can I put in here? Because I love Christmas. I always have.
Okay.
I've been as a kid. And a spoiler, the way that Christmas gets ruined for Jennifer in the book is how Christmas got ruined for me as a kid, and how I found out Santa wasn't real. So there's a little fun fact.
Okay.
So I think it's like writing a Christmas song. So I was like, do I write, like simply having a wonderful Christmas time in here? Do I write the Pogues in here? Like, what do I write? So I think it's just choosing those different Christmas jingles each day. I was like, right, what's it going to dance to today? What's it going to sing along to? I really enjoyed that part.
Okay, cool. So was this whole writing this book what you expected it to be at the end? Was it more than what you expected it, or was it less than what you expected it? I mean, I don't know if that's the right way to answer that, but
yeah,
are you satisfied with how I guess the whole thing came about?
Right. So I think to answer the question, I think a bit of both, a bit of less than I expected and a little bit more of what I expected. So in terms of more, of course, as I've been doing YouTube, I've been kind of learning to do thumbnails. So the poster art for the book was made by myself.
Oh, okay.
Dave from Interpreting Stars helped to So of course you got like the girl at the front, and then you got like the rope behind. Like I sent that over to Dave just to blend like the background in with the image of the girl. So Dave helped kind of spruce that part, but everything else is all like my idea and design.
Okay.
So that was something that I didn't really think too much about when I was writing the book, the design of the book and the cover. Then of course, like after the drafts, had to expand the book to what to fill it out a little bit more, or just to give it a bit more substance. So that was more than I expected to write. And then in terms of less than I expected, I guess with the pre-order date, the pre-order date really helped a lot, because I found the fact that I could make changes constantly as much as I wanted up until it's like 2 days before release.
Okay.
Even if it's by one word, I could change the manuscript and upload a new one. So yeah, a bit of both, really.
You've been saying pre-order date. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so pre-order date was so June 1st. June 1st was when the book was released.
Uh-huh.
So when I uploaded the manuscript on Amazon, I think I had like 14 or 15 days, something like that. When I uploaded the first draft, to be like, right, put it on sale for June 1st.
Okay.
So, sorry, I should have explained that. So when I say about pre-order date, that means that every day up until the 29th, yeah. Every day until the 29th, I could review my book at any time. I could make any changes. If I wanted to delete it 10 chapters and have 2 chapters in a book, I could, if I really wanted to.
Uh-huh.
I could do anything with the book and change it
So
up until the,
and then it's finalized.
and then it's finalized. It's done. I can't make any changes after that.
Okay.
So it just gives you that flexibility, really, to, because you might think 2 weeks before the release date, you might think, right, I've got my book ready, I could release that tomorrow.
Right.
But at that same time, I was thinking, well, actually, let me give a pre-order date, or maybe spread the word a little bit. People can find out a bit more. People who don't know how to do writing as like just a hobby now know, and they might be like, oh, cool, I didn't know about this. And then at the same time, it gives me time to go over the book, proofread it again, maybe add in a couple of words here or there. I think on the spot, I could have maybe put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually did, before the 29th came, I think I actually did submit 1 or 2 lines extra in one of the twist parts, actually. So that was a last minute change.
Okay. Wow.
That's
Is it?
cool.
I mean, I suppose when you're writing and you're looking at it, you always think, what can I do to make it better? I don't know if that's a issue with a lot of writers, is they're almost never satisfied. And they're like, oh, I need to keep, going back and then making sure it's perfect. I don't know. Or,
Yeah. Well, that's it exactly. Yeah. So there was many points I wrote when what I wrote, and I was like, I'm not truly happy with this cut. I'm not
yeah.
like, I feel like I could add more in here. I feel like I could add
Yeah.
less in. And even now, if I was to really, really think about it, I'd be like, man, I could maybe put in an extra chapter in here, you know. But I'm happy with how it is. I think, for me personally, I've put this book to bed. So the Suicide Rumour you've got is the one you get
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future might be a paperback version as well. I'm
Okay.
not too sure yet. The only time I would ever, and you can quote me with this interview, the only time I would ever make changes to this book is if it was to actually get published by a publisher and they wanted some changes. I would do it that way.
Uh-huh.
Or I was to ever make this into a full novel. That would be the only time I would touch the book again and make changes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I forgot I was going to ask, but I think I had an idea. But now I pause. I'm like, what was I going to ask about? I feel like I had something interesting to say, and I forgot.
It's okay. Okay, we've been through a lot of questions. I understand.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So I guess maybe you touched on this before. I guess this is the question I had written down though. So I thought it would be
Okay.
interesting to ask is there any real life experiences that you drew from when you were writing this book?
Yeah, so a couple, yeah. So for example, like the bullying aspect in this book, that was in like based a little bit on some bullying that I had. Again, not to the extremity that it goes to in the book. But I've been through that in my life. The way that Christmas was spoiled for Jennifer,
Right.
that was
Yeah.
how it was spoiled for me in real
Right.
life.
Yeah. Okay.
I've worked in a video game store before, so
Okay.
that was another one kind of just a little bit about myself anyway. And I think those are the kind of the main ones based on real life
Okay.
ruin.
Because I assume that you would. It's hard not to write stuff from your own life, maybe, or draw, or what makes you maybe every person who writes unique is that they got different unique experiences in their life,
Right,
and they probably draw upon that. I'm guessing. I'm just making guesses
right.
here.
I think it depends on if you're an open person and you're okay with kind of sharing that, or if you're just a really closed off person, no, you don't want anyone knowing anything about your personal life. For me, I'm a bit of both. Of course, there's certain aspects I don't
Yeah.
mind sharing, and there's parts
Right.
I'm just like, no, I wouldn't put that in here.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, like something like that, I say it's about me, but it's not me at the same time. It's that character it's happening to. So
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, like for me, like if I was to write, like I don't know how I could write anything than like a guy. Like I wouldn't want to write a female personally because I feel like I wouldn't know what to say. But I feel like if I was writing a character, of course, I'm thinking like I need to write like a male character,
mm,
and it'd be hard not to put some personality of my own in there. But I suppose you don't want to put too much of that. But yet I would have a hard time. I would think not trying to make
mm,
that character because I feel like that's me in the book or something. I don't know if that's something
right,
authors come across maybe.
right,
Uh, yeah, well, I was gonna ask. Okay, so I remember, like, I was gonna say about, like, I watch a lot of like YouTube videos on authors and stuff that
mm,
um, write, and yeah, it's like, of course, you write the book, and then there's the cover art. I've heard is like very important to the selling of the book. And these are people that are making livings off of
right,
self publishing books and stuff, and they self published a bunch of books.
mm,
And so, and then they talk about like the cover art, like being very important. That the cover art needs to explain kind of in picture form. Of course, it needs to grab you. It's very important because the first thing the person sees is that cover art. So
right,
if it intrigues them, they're like, which is sad because I'm sure you're thinking, oh, I wish my writing would bring people in, but you have to think about. I suppose, and I know you told me this about YouTube. YouTube's the same way. Your thumbnail, and so I suppose you think about this anyways.
sure,
Um, what brings someone in? Because even if you do something good, you need something to, a little extra, I guess, to hook them into the to reading or whatever.
yeah,
And the yeah, so the what from what I've watched is like the image needs to kind of explain your book kind of in image form. Like they look at that cover and go, okay, I think I get an idea of what this book's maybe about, you
mm,
know, um, which is something interesting. I think I don't think about myself. I guess I don't
mm.
know if that's something you thought about.
Yeah. So with like the image art, I wanted to be like kind of like bold font. The font is like it's big, and even if someone's looking at this on like the tiniest devices, they can read the title, and they're not like squinting to like see what the title is. Um, I think it's important the fact that in the middle of the image is a girl that looks depressed
Yeah,
because the book
yeah,
is not a cheerful book for anyone
yeah,
who think it could be. It's not. Um,
yeah. I think it does a good job kind of giving that feeling. I think, yeah,
no, thank you. So yeah, so have that girl in the middle, and of course, the most important part is the rope, right? Because sometimes, in an awful way to an extent, when you think of suicides, you do hear about people hanging themselves, as a way really of like a release, which is so sad to hear about. But like something like that, it's just like it's an important kind of figure to an extent. Just like with that one item, which can be like an everyday item to an extent. And I just think like something like that is just like like it's not the forefront of the image, but it's present at the back. But the forefront is the girl who is depressed. So kind of when I was like doing that image, I was thinking, will people wonder, well, why is this girl depressed? Like, why is she looking like she's like got her head in her hands right now, and like what's
Yeah.
going on in her
Yeah.
life? Like, why is she feeling
Yeah.
like that? So I just wanted something that was simple, a simple background where it's not too bright, not extravagant. It's dark to represent it's a dark book, but more so that it makes her stand out in the forefront of that image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
It's important.
yeah, that's what I heard, which is something I don't think about myself. Like I said, I'm just thinking like when I think about YouTube, I always just think about I just want to put out good content, and then I hate the fact that I have
Right.
to. Oh man, now I got to think about thumbnail, and I've got to.
Well, from what I've heard, I don't know if it's true. From what I've heard, is the average person's kind of focus on something is like 3 seconds. So if you put out a video, like we put YouTube videos out all the time, how often we upload. If
Yeah.
someone random sees that image for 3 seconds,
Hmm.
is it an image they're gonna want to click on and be like, I want to know more about what this person's talking about or what they're doing?
Right.
Same for a book. If you don't have a good image to an extent, people might be like, you're going to get so many people who don't care about images. They don't care nothing about that. Just want to click on a video and watch. They don't care. Same with
Well,
a
like,
book.
I don't think about images. I just think about. I guess I probably think more about like recommendations. Like someone says, "Hey, this is a good book," and then I'll go, "Okay, I'll check it out." I don't think I think about the cover that much, but
Right, right. But yourself, like, with some items in, say, a physical media collection, you're like, oh, wow, that's a cool artwork. That's really cool. Like, like a steel book, for example. I
yeah,
know we both have
yeah,
passion for steel books. You're like,
yeah.
wow, it's really deep. Again, same thing. It's artwork that has
Hmm.
enticed us to maybe check that out or buy it. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely important.
yeah. The other thing is they talk about like then you have to so you write your book, you got your cover art, you got your book put together, and then now there's the marketing part of it, and that's an important part of it as well. Which again, I don't think about marketing as much,
Mm,
uh,
mm.
but I don't know how much you had to put into marketing, how much you had to think about that when or how did you market this book or
Sure. So yeah, I think marketing's important. For me personally, I wasn't too, mindset focused on the marketing because otherwise I think something like I could maybe eat, really tear at someone to be like, I've not done enough, or I've done too much marketing, that fine balance maybe in people's mind. So for me, I knew straight away, I was like, right, I can't afford Facebook ads, can't afford social media advertisement to start with.
right,
It's a short story, so am I going to try send this to publishers who, I mean, let's face it, if you go to Barnes and Nobles, if you go to a supermarket, how often do you see a short story on a shelf? I personally don't think I've seen short stories on a shelf.
right,
They're at least like 200 pages, maybe. Like the smallest books you can normally buy, maybe 150, maybe
hmm
a stretch. Like I
yeah,
don't think I've ever seen a 77-page book for sale,
no,
personally.
right,
So straight away, I'm kind of like, well, are publishers going to be interested in this? Are they just going to tell me write a longer book? This doesn't meet the requirements, so
right,
therefore I'm going to have to change my book, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, for me, it was marketing in terms of once I knew I was going to release the book on June 1st, and I could change the manuscript up to the point of the 29th. That's when I started posted on like a YouTube video. I made a YouTube video just for people who know me or people who just come across a video now and then, be like, oh, Mike does writing. Oh, cool. Maybe I might check that out. Same for like Facebook and Instagram. People who know me through there, or people who I know, or people who just randomly follow you on these platforms. Again, like maybe they might see it and be like, oh, I'll give it a try. Um, but also I think important for me was the price of the book. So for me, never wrote a book before. For being my first ever book, for being a short story of only like 77 pages, it's not massive. So yeah, with Amazon, if you ever self-publish, you can set any price you want. The more price you put, the more profit you get per sale. But with
because
doing you
Amazon gets some of that profit, right?
right, yeah, because you're on their platform, they take like a percentage. But for me, doing YouTube, I've never done YouTube for profit. I've never done making a book. I don't want to do that for profit. If I make some money from it, yeah, great. It's a nice bonus, I guess. But I've never set out to be, someone on YouTube that, just make money from people. I've just never done that. Even with like Patreon, for example, like I've never withdrawn anything from Patreon because I want to use that someday maybe to make like a movie. Like that would be cool. I'd rather use it to invest it like in something that would be good and like good for the channel and good at, like something for future wise. I'd rather do it for that. But like, yeah, like the book, I say I charged £1. At least that way I knew like, oh, it's not too expensive. It costs less than a cup of coffee that people might pay every day, or same price for a newspaper. They can have a book as well. At that price point, people might be more interested. They might be thinking, I'll take a punt on this book. I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
So I wanted to market because, for example, if I put it at $5 in American currency, people might think that's a bit too much, man. I'm not paying $5. But $1, as you said, like you think, dollars, it's nothing, really.
Yeah.
It's not, and you got to think at the same time, you're like, I've got a book for $1. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like I'll give it a go. If it's not good, I'll just delete it, But it's only $1 if it's not going to break the bank, so to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of what went a little bit behind my marketing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a good idea because you're not an established author of any kind,
right?
Necessarily. Right. So if you started becoming, more known, then you probably start upping the price.
Yeah.
About, yeah.
Like my next book, for example, like my next book's a lot more detailed and stuff, and there's a lot more. It's definitely going to be more than 77 pages.
Okay.
So for that one, I might charge like $2 or maybe like $2.50 or something.
Okay.
Because there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. Okay.
That book, and it's a bigger read.
Okay.
So I'd probably maybe charge a little bit more. Whereas this one's just a nice short story, quick, easy for $1. That was my goal for it anyway.
Oh yeah. So going into that, you mentioned, you have other ideas for books and stuff like that, and now you've kind of revealed something that I didn't know, that you're writing one right now, and you're in that process right now. I guess I know you can talk about the book that you're writing right now, but I guess my question generally was just, is there different kind of genres that you want to touch outside of the one that you just wrote, the Suicide Rumour? You want to write something different than that book, or be in the same area of that book? I don't know if that's the right way to say it. Of course, you're writing a book right now, so maybe you can, I don't know if you can reveal what genre that is or what you want to say about it.
So what I'll tell you about my second book for now, so a bit of an exclusive here for you, Jason.
Yes.
Is it is going to be not based on suicide this time. There might be an element of that in there. That's all I'll say. Okay. And a couple of the characters from Suicide Rumour might have like a little Easter egg cameo in there somewhere.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't mean it's going to connect into that story, but there might just be like a little Easter egg in there, But yeah, so I'm going to give you a bit of a general plot synopsis for this next one. Okay. I don't have like an official plot or an official title as of yet, but so this next one again is still an important message. When I write this book, I want to still have an important theme behind this book. So basically, it's going to be based in a town again, and it's going to be based on a lottery this time. So the idea behind this one is, with it being based on a lottery, the prize money is going to be like £400,000 or like $400,000, for example. And it's going to be, okay, well, whoever wins the lottery gets that money, right? But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to have 4 people win the lottery, so they all get like 100,000 each.
Yeah.
And it's all going to tell the stories of each person who wins it, and like how it affects them.
Oh, wow, cool. Yeah.
But it's all going to be in this one kind of town, and each story is going to connect in with each other.
Okay.
but it's going to be like consequences for who wins as well. Like it's not
Yeah,
just going to be
yeah.
a straightforward, oh, I've
Oh,
got 100 grand, I can retire now, I'm good.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not going to be that easy.
yeah, yeah,
But it's going to be different people. Like there's going to be a theme in there of like gambling. Like how does a gambler deal with like a big win all of a sudden?
yeah,
Like do
yeah.
they just blow it? Do they change their life around?
Hmm.
One might also be like a homeless person wins it. So how does that change their life?
Yeah, yeah.
So again, it's like important themes, but into like a story that could possibly happen, or just like an important story by the end of it. So you're gonna have four characters. So firstly, I need to build up four characters to
Yeah,
start
you're
with.
building four now. Okay.
Right, maybe four. Then I also need to build in how are those four going to connect into this entire world, and how is one story going to end into the next story, and where's that story going to pick up from if that one finishes? Does it connect directly in? Is it just like a little Easter egg, and you have to keep an eye out for that? Like it's a lot more bigger scale. This next one, so
Okay.
it's that one as we said before about outline. That one's going to take a bit more outline to do.
Okay.
But I'm a couple of chapters into the first story anyway.
Cool. I like that
So
idea.
so again, Patreon will be like if anyone's interested, Patreon. You can name a character in the book as well.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
might even give the power of Patreon to name the four characters in the book as well. So that would be pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, different idea, important messages throughout.
So,
But again, a different story about people winning the lottery and what happens to those different scenarios if they win the lottery. Again,
okay.
I don't think it's been a movie made about something like that before, to like that extent, anyway.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting because I like watching shows where people win the lottery and what they do with the money.
Right, because again, something like
Some
that.
people go bankrupt and they lose it all, and you're like,
Right,
God. And then,
but again, something like that with that idea, Jason. What I have is like an everyday person can think of that, because by the end of the book, you might be like, "Well, I won $100,000. Like, what would
oh,
I do with that money?"
yeah. Oh, I think about that every day.
Right, right, exactly.
I do if I won the lottery. Uh,
Exactly. Exactly. So that's the newest book I'm working on at the
oh,
moment. It's
awesome.
probably going to be a while, to be honest, but
Sure, sure.
yeah, I'm excited though.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad he talked about that. That's really, really excited to hear about that, and
Oh, thank you.
and look forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, I'll be there buying it for sure.
Maybe another interview at the end of that.
Let's say another interview. Yeah.
Right.
Get another one. All right. The last question I have.
Okay.
We come down to my last question. We're over 2 hours in, but it's been a good
Oh,
discussion.
good.
I really enjoyed this.
Hey,
Uh,
me too. Thank you for having me.
oh yeah. And you guys, I guess maybe you've touched on this, but it's kind of a question for you, anyways, to kind of
Yeah.
give to. I mean, even though this is your first book, but I still like to hear your advice. And it's if there's someone out there that thinks about writing a book, but maybe and they want to self-publish, they thought about it maybe, and they just maybe feel too overwhelmed by the process, or they feel too unsure about themselves in writing a book. I guess, do you have any advice for that kind of a person? I guess my question.
Yeah. So my advice would be, I think it's easy for us in an everyday situation to beat ourselves up over something, to overthink something as well. In that
Yeah.
process, as said, someone could feel overwhelmed. They could be like, "Where do I start? What
Right.
if it tanks? What if no one's interested?" All these what if scenarios going in your head, right? About anything, not just a book, but just anything in general.
Right. Yeah.
And I would say my advice is, if you let that overtake what you're feeling, you're never going to do it, unless something really comes over and like snaps that process completely, and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to do it." So my advice is, give it a try. Put yourself out there. Again, if you decide to release a book tomorrow, give it a week or so, give it a month even. If you get no sales, no interest, it's there. You've done it. You can hold your head up high, be like, I've published a book. I
Yeah.
took that
Yeah.
opportunity. I took
Yeah.
that chance. And you
Yeah.
never know, someone might come across that and they might love your work and be like, where's part two? Or where's your next story? Or where's this? Or even like yourself, Jason, I've had the opportunity to come on your channel and talk about my work. I didn't think that would happen. So, and no,
Yeah.
and honestly, I didn't though, I didn't think when I published it, I'm going to be on Jason's channel one day talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate the platform and the outlet to talk about it, and I've had a blast.
Yeah.
So my advice is just, try squash those thoughts. Just give it a try.
Give it a try. Okay.
Right. You're never going to know unless you try.
Okay. Good. Good. Yeah, I wish I had more influence that I can help your book out. I'm afraid I'm I'm kind of a small fish in the pond, but I
No,
want to try
no.
I want to try my best to help your book out if I could. I would love to
Well,
get the word out any way I can.
yeah, appreciate it. Well, we've had people watching tonight. You're on 225 subs, so not exactly a small fish, Jason. Don't put
Yeah.
yourself down.
Yeah. So, um, yeah. Thank you a lot for coming on and letting me pick your brain. It was fun for me to come up with questions because I've
Yeah.
been interested in this idea of writing a book.
Hmm.
It sounds fascinating to me. This getting your idea out there, and like I said, like you, I'm kind of a creative person. That's why I started YouTube, and
Right.
uh, you
Right.
know, so just seeing you, someone I know has done it, is very fascinating to me, I guess. And so that was
Well,
really really fun getting to your thoughts on all that.
yeah, man, it's been a blast. Thank you for having me. And
Oh yeah,
one last thing I'll say, Jason, is like, take yourself, for example, when you started YouTube, if you go back from your first video to your present one, it's probably going to be night and day, the difference,
oh, yeah,
And, I'm sure your present self now would tell your old self, give it a go. You never know what's going to happen on YouTube. You never going to know what you're going to learn throughout this process.
yeah. It's actually worked better than I thought it would, to be honest, when I started. So
Right, right. I mean, even with yourself, Jason, with this book, right? I released this book. You were kind enough to buy it and check it out. That's one more sale than I thought I'd ever have. So, you know,
yeah,
it goes to show it's something's good's come from it.
oh yeah, yeah. And I wish you all the luck with the book. And
No,
again, anybody out there, I really recommend the book Suicide Rumor, with a U in there, Rumor, as I know English people like to put U's in words for some reason. Uh,
yeah.
uh, so I always misspell words, but it's Rumor.
Right.
Suicide Rumor. Anyways, but yeah, definitely check it out. Like I said, if you have a Kindle, you can get it pretty easy, or smartphone, you said, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And anyway, so yeah, definitely check it out. I recommend it. I really enjoyed the book. And of course, I'm a good friend of Mike's. I know that. I don't know. I'm trying to say that as sincerely as possible. I enjoyed the book,
Oh, thank
um,
you.
even though I'm a good friend of Mike's. Anyway, so yeah, so I hope you get some good sales, and wish you luck on writing some more. Really, excited to see where that goes for you.
No,
Anyways,
thanks, man. As I say, I've got big plans in the works,
oh, good.
especially the next book, as I we talked about before. That's going to
Yeah,
be a bigger book anyway. It's going to take a lot of
yeah,
thinking. So I'm excited.
yeah, and definitely check out his channel. Did you see that? As he does some Z talks, he's got some more left. Really great live streams. Plus, he goes to all kinds of places, Comic Cons. He's been watching some musicals lately. It seems like you've been
Yeah.
posting a lot of musicals, and
Yeah. I love musicals.
yeah, yeah, I enjoyed that. And yeah, and just all kinds of stuff of like the stuff that you own, you've been showing off, and
Mm.
you know, but really great channel. Obviously,
Thanks, man.
way more subscribers than me, so I don't know anybody that's subscribed to me. Hopefully, it's subscribed to you before. But I'll still say, if you haven't, subscribe to him. Anyway, so yeah, thank you, Mike. Anything else you want to say
Thank you.
about your channel? I guess.
No, I'll say is anyone who's come from over from my channel and not subscribed to Jason, please go subscribe over to Jason.
Yeah.
And go check out his videos. Awesome guy, awesome content as
Right.
well.
Right.
And thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, thank you for coming on. And so I guess
Thank
I'll
you.
sign off there, and thank you everybody watching and commenting. I appreciate it, especially Ryan Lewis. I know you asked some questions. That's great. Anyways, and anybody watching this, feel free to make more comments and all that, and I appreciate it, anyways. And so just have a good weekend, and talk to you guys later. Bye.
See you guys.